3, 2, 1, we are live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
Whoa, look at that. That's a nice opening.
Very nice opening. Very
That
slick.
was good. Yeah. So we'll have to say thank you, David. Look at that. You know, listen, he only does one thing a day. That was the one thing he did.
and that was it.
So, that was it. He didn't do anything else. And just before we start, just to bust everybody's chops, yes, I'm sitting in front of the creation of David. So if you want this, feel free to whatchamacallit. Feel free to go to our merch page. There you can wear the sweatshirt. So
no sweat.
One day, yes, no sweat. One day we'll auction off the painting for a charity. And I have a charity. It's a halfway house for girls that don't go all the way. So I think that's the charity that I'm gonna do. So this version of No Snobs or Knobs is what the original No Snobs or Knobs was supposed to be, which is where we talk about our favorite dinner guests, scotch and cigars. And Morton was kind enough to sit in, but now Morton has his own show called Ad Hoc, which will be the format that everyone's used to seeing, and that'll be on Sunday mornings. But No Snobs or Knobs will continue to be on Saturday. So this will be a fun show. So we will see. So where would you like to kick off, my friend? We can kick off with cigars or whatever.
Well, let's start this way. Let's start with the concept of this show. The concept of this show came up, I think I'm in Ramadan right now. I'm in the holy month of fasting for Muslims. And that means that all my nefarious activities have ceased. I say this, but I'm going to try and say it as diplomatically as possible. We, like vampires, come out to feast after sunset. And we feast until sunrise for these 30 days in remembrance of God. But also, it's a time of reflection. It's a time to think about what's good in the world, what's bad in the world. But the way that it's affecting me in an obvious way is the lack of food and drink throughout the day. And the way that it's affecting me, which is not particularly obvious to most people, is that I'm unable to indulge this habit.
I know, it's terrible.
Which is, by the way, that's Ramadan's specially selected Cuban cigar. I like to puff away on a cigar mid-morning after breakfast with a coffee. And we've had some chats where I'm smoking and having a nice sip. And this isn't happening. So we thought, what would be a great topic where Steve and I could have a chat about cigars, drink, food, etc., etc. What would combine those things and perhaps make it a sort of a fireside chat? We came up with our favorite dinner guests, who we would like to invite for dinner, or maybe who I would like to invite when I'm breaking my fast in the evening. 3 people who I'd love to sit with, who I can eat with and exchange anecdotes with, and they would make the time go more easily. And that was my perspective. Stephen, you have your own perspective on your favorite dinner guests. And as a build-up to this show, we haven't actually told each other our 3 favorite dinner guests, but one of them somehow, how can I say this, was planted down by God, and we both understood we were talking about the same person. So my proposition is, why don't we go through our guests and go through our rationale? Why don't you start, Stephen? Your favorite
I get to start.
Okay.
Well, I know that we have the mutual one. So the mutual one,
that one to the end.
I'm going to wait. That's the end, So I think somebody who I'd like to sit down to dinner with and have a scotch and cigar is definitely a scotch and cigar guy would be Winston Churchill.
Oh, yeah, super.
All right. I think Winston Churchill would be very interesting. And my dinner topics with Winston are going to be more of when you were taking out the pen and paper in 1921 and drawing the lines for all the Middle Eastern countries, what was going through your mind other than nobody cared?
Apart from alcohol and cigars.
Take us to that. Right. So, but I want to know that. And then, that to me would be I think he would be a fascinating dinner guest. I was to a party in the 90s where I want to say it's either his son or his grandson was there telling Winston Churchill stories.
Is it Nicholas Soames?
Something like that, but it was like an evening with Winston Churchill's whatever it was, and I was like, so I went. So it's very cool to hear his stories and pictures, but he would have been somebody I would have liked to have scotch and cigars with. I think that would be fascinating.
Would you be more interested in his one-liners, his famous quotes? Would you be interested in the mundane everyday conversation? How would someone that important feature on mundane items?
But you know what's really funny? We all put our pants on the same way, with two gentlemen each holding a leg for us, because I don't do that. But so to me, it would be just sort of like I just talk to him like he's a mate. Like, hey, dude, what's going on? Like, tell me. I mean, like his best quote I ever liked.
You basically want to hang out with him. It's a hangout.
Yeah, well, and that's why I like scotch and cigars, and true aficionados of this, and you understand this because we've talked about this. A cigar is a great equalizer. It doesn't matter if it's a $2 stick or a 100-pound stick. It makes no difference, because it's that brotherhood that for that 30 minutes or that 2 hours, you're on that mini holiday and you all are embracing that moment.
Very well said.
And so, thank you. And so to me, that's what I like about it. So it doesn't matter that you're Winston Churchill. You're just Winston, and we're talking. And that's how I look at any dinner guest I have. So when I have cigars, whether I have them by myself or if I have them out, like when we're in Dubai, we go to, wherever the Winston Churchill Club and have cigars and we meet people, we're all there doing the same thing. Like, I'm not there to show off. I'm there just to enjoy my cigar and my scotch and just take it all in, because it's just that. It's just the cigar part of it.
Which cigar would you be smoking with Winston Churchill? Which scotch would you be drinking with Winston Churchill?
That's interesting. So for cigars, it would have to probably be a good Cuban, and for the Cuban, it would probably with him be a Cohiba. Which one, I'm not sure, but I know he likes his Churchill, so it'd be one of their bigger gauged ones. And scotch, I don't know what he drank, but I think like a Glenfargus 40-year-old would be a good scotch for a Churchill.
You'd want to go head to head.
That would be interesting.
You'd want to impress him a little bit. You'd want to say, look, I've got a big ring gauge cigar. I've got something Cuban, lots of flavor, lots of aroma, lots of smoke.
Because I smoke those anyway, right? So it's not like I'm really going, I'm not really trying to do anything other than I'm smoking what I usually smoke. Yeah. So it's not like when I meet guys, like I had a friend of mine that David Minkin, I guess, has the gold leaf cigars, where they wrap it in gold leaf and you can smoke it. It's like 200 US, right? So I had a buddy who got me one, and I literally said to him, "What do you want me to do with this?"
Daniel Marshall.
Smoke it. I'm like, Daniel Marshall. Thank you. And I said, okay, but I'm not going to smoke this with anybody. So one afternoon, I had a scotch. I lit my 24 karat gold cigar, and the cigar was okay. It was just to say I smoked a 24 karat gold cigar, but I was like, I would never. Not at all. It was like nice to do it. I would never do it again. I wouldn't buy it for somebody. I said to him, I appreciated it. I took him to dinner for it, but to me, it was sort of a waste of $200 on his side. It was just to say,
I totally agree with you.
See, I'm not into the flash. Like, people that know me, I don't need to show off. And I always joke, I know I have the biggest penis in the room. I don't need to show off. And it's the same. And I know it's a shock to the world, but anyway, and that's just the metaphor, if you will. So I don't need to buy this. I smoke my cigars that I like, and it could be a $5 stick, like a CAO Brazilian Amazon, which is a New World cigar. I buy those constantly. They're a big full body, and it's like for a box of 20 is $100. And I'm like, they're a great daily cigar. I don't. Now I have other cigars.
Green and yellow band, sort of like the Brazilian flag.
Yep, the green and yellow bands, right? I think I have one. I'll pull it out in a little bit. Not the cigar, that is. But I mean, it's just, I like that. it's like I don't have to show off. And then I have the expensive. We've talked about Davidoff. I've got the in the black tube, which is delicious.
Yeah.
I've got my Cubans, and I smoke what I like. And depending on my mood, determines if it's going to be like a Robusto or like a Mega.
There is a bit of a Churchill theme going on with you, because a couple of days I remember you mentioning that you smoked the late hour, the Davidoff late hour. So that's a sort of Churchill theme, but there is a Churchill obsession. I can hear it at in this delivery. So quick question for you. We're going to go through the three guests, but do you have a theme, or is this just going to be an eclectic mix of three people?
Oh,
because
it's definitely it's an eclectic.
We're going to be having them at the same dinner table at the same time.
Right. Oh no, it would be definitely eclectic. And so what I tried to do for this group is keep people in the 19th and 20th century, because I have guys that we can go back to, like, 300 CE. I mean, I have a bunch of guests that I want, male and female. Yeah, I've gone, but this one is very much 19th and 20th century. So most of the people watching or listening will be like, oh, okay, I've heard of them. It won't be somebody they're going to be like, what? I got to look at a history book and figure out who this is. So, the next show will be that. So,
okay. So you've gone for someone in recent history, a big political figure. Shall I come out with my first guest?
Please. Or you can just come out either way. So.
So here's a clue to my second guest. So my first guest is a non-fictional character.
Okay.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Wow. Okay.
Now, the reason for choosing Arnold Schwarzenegger, apart from the very obvious cigar smoking, because if I'm going to sit with someone at a dinner table smoking a cigar, I'd love to go head to head with someone who I admire as a cigar smoker. So obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger, obviously because he likes pairing his cigars with X number of nice drinks. I think he has a soft spot for tequila, I believe.
Yes, he infuses his cigars with it. He talked about it on a video, how he infuses it with tequila. I got to learn how he does it, because
by the way, I've tried it. I've done it on my own Instagram account, and I reserve that for really rubbishy cigars that aren't delivering. So you tequila infuse them. And there's something more melodic in that smoke.
Okay.
I would love to have a smoke with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm a big movie fan. I'm a big movie buff.
Okay.
And I would love to hear all evening, in that ridiculously European accent of his, stories and anecdotes about what's happened off movie sets. Not what's happened on movie sets, the off-piste. I want to hang out and shoot the breeze, and I want to go ahead, because the other thing is he is into very wide ring gauge cigars. So I am not particularly, I'm into big cigars, but necessarily more in terms of length and strange. I love the Cuava Salamones. It's sort of tapered at both ends. It looks like an old school cigar, and I know I know the conversation would start on cigars. It would have to start on cigars and then just go off in X different directions. But Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, very current, very contemporary, very this worldly. I would think that's my opening act for a dinner.
And you can actually have cigars with Arnold, because every year I get invited to Austria from Daniel Marshall, and for a charity that Arnold does, and he goes there and he smokes cigars, and I want to say it's like 500 or 1,000 euro. And it's at a private club, and I get invited every year. I don't go. One year I thought about going, and I called the guy. I will next time I get it. But I remember I got the invitation, and I was like, oh. So I called him. I said, can I ask a stupid question? The guy's like, sure. I go, will they be speaking English? And he's like, I'm sure if you speak to Arnold one-on-one, yes. And then that's where it was. So I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to go there and be like, they're all speaking in Austrian or German. And I'm sitting there going, oh.
Exactly.
And I got none of that. And then, being a Jew, I didn't want them to be like, oh. Could be some
Here
old
we go.
guys there. Yeah.
Thanks
So,
for the
but,
memories.
I don't know how that's going to go. Yeah, really. It's like, hey, 1930. But I always said to myself that would be very cool. And then some people that I know that I guess are acquaintances of his have said he's very gracious when it comes to cigars.
Oh,
Like,
oh yeah.
he'll do, and he belongs to a club in LA, and I belong to the club in New York. So apparently they're sister clubs, so I'm allowed to go to the LA club. So one day I may go to the LA Havana club and see if they'll let me meet Mr. Schwarzenegger.
I think that's the secret language of cigar smokers. That if you are cigar smokers, when you meet for the first time and you don't know you're cigar smokers, if you pull out a cigar, then the conversation will start flowing straight away, because it's a very non-abrasive topic to start upon. It's not politics, it's not fashion, it's not art, it's not something you're going to have issues with. But if you pull a nice cigar and the other person, you're going to smoke together and you're going to enjoy that. So, so I believe Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of those great, cigar smokers who spreads the love, the cigar love everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I know in Cigar Aficionado, man, if they interview him any more times, they may as well just change the name to Cigar Aficionado to Schwarzenegger Aficionado, because they've got video and interviews. Right. Yeah, he's constantly getting interviewed. And listen, he's an intriguing guy. He's like 70 years old. He's been doing this for 50 years. The best story I've ever heard about him turning somebody on to cigars is Danny DeVito. I don't know if you've heard the Danny DeVito story.
Danny with the hash. He gave him the cigar full of.
No. So Danny DeVito is doing Twins with Schwarzenegger. Okay. And that's where Danny DeVito starts his love for cigars, because Schwarzenegger's like, everyone has to smoke a cigar. So Danny DeVito's on a flight, let's say from New York or LA to London. And Danny just finishes his dinner and he said, "Can I smoke a cigar?" to the flight attendant.
Oh, okay.
And she said to him, I think this was British Airways, don't quote me. And, this is 20 years ago. So if the FAA needs to go do anything, I don't care. And Danny's told the story. And he said, they made me go ask every single passenger, whether first class or coach, if I may have a cigar. And nobody said no. One guy in first class said, only if you give me one to smoke with you. So apparently they are the two guys that smoked. I'm like, I would have done the same thing. I'd be like, Mr. DeVito, that's awesome. Did you bring two? So I thought that was cool. So he would be like somebody I tried, and he would be somebody like, the Schwarzenegger. Could you just put him in your pocket and bring him? He would be one of those I'd want there, but not like my main.
Now that you've mentioned Danny DeVito, he would have been a good dinner party guest, but I've left him off there. But cigar aficionado as well. I believe I heard another story where Schwarzenegger got the recently departed the chap who played Apollo Creed.
Okay, I know. I know you're talking about. I can see him, and I'm
having brain seizure from people whose names I know.
Yes.
Anyway, but that was on the Predator set. Every time Schwarzenegger goes to a movie, he makes everyone start smoking, as you were saying. So, I think that's a good choice for a dinner guest for round one. How about you, round two?
Round one. Round two. This guy has always fascinated me, Orson Welles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's
a cool choice. Very cool choice. For all sorts of reasons. I feel embarrassed that I left Orson Welles out.
Okay. So
go on.
But Orson Welles to me is like just like Citizen Kane and just his World of the Wars, and like whether it's the old Orson that was as big as the VW or the young Orson, don't care. Just like the man in general.
Yeah, I just realized
and
they're very
always
different
when
people,
he would be on Merv Griffin. Yeah. But when he was on Merv Griffin, I would watch him as a kid and I'd be like, he's somebody I want to meet. So Orson Welles was always one of those guys that his voice, his everything, and he always was smoking a cigar. And I was like, this is the guy I want to meet.
Very well dressed. So, nice, pretty.
Yep. He always had the
Yeah. What a great. Actually, you've come up with the word I would apply to these two people that you've come up with, Winston Churchill and Orson Welles, is grandees. Grandees.
Ooh,
these are These are heavyweights. Heavyweights both in terms of their physical mass, but heavyweights in terms of their impact on whether it's film or politics. Yes. That's serious. That's a serious choice. Yeah. And you may have noticed that in my title, it says Reza, very slightly noir. Orson Welles is very majorly noir.
Right.
I'm so ashamed that I left out Orson Welles from that. That really.
That's funny.
Oh gosh.
Well, and you do have the Maltese Falcon in all your shorts, so it's okay. Yeah.
On this shoulder, there's the Maltese.
Hold on, I can make us see him. There he goes. He's right there on your shoulder.
There you go.
On a wide shot.
The Maltese Falcon again is a tribute to you on this one. Actually, it was your idea, and the Maltese Falcon follows me around on my noir videos, and on this one as well. Yeah. You've frozen yourself.
It was very cool. Like I froze myself. Hopefully, I'm unfrozen now.
There we go.
But what I thought was interesting is when I watched your first black and white one, I was like, this reminded me of the Maltese Falcon and Sam Spade and all those 30 and 40 detective movies. And that's why I said to you, dude, you got to get the Maltese Falcon. You got to just put him in there. And it was perfect.
Got it. If anyone wants to see those, youtube.com/cigar noir stories. If anyone's even interested, go and have a look. You might enjoy and send me some comments on that. But
and we also have it on a playlist on our playlist channel here on the TOF. So if you can't find it, go to the playlist, click it, and you'll have the link to get to there as well. So we can they'll get there.
What cigar would you be smoking with Orson Welles?
Wow, that is.
Are we continuing the same cigar throughout the evening, or will you be smoking a different one with Orson Welles?
With Orson, I think you know what's really funny with Orson? Because he's a big guy, I do my big gauge. I would pull out like my CAO Brazilian Amazon, a 54, 56 ring gauge, 6 inches. Like, okay, buddy, we're going to get down to nasty, big and nasty. But he Churchills that were like 48 to 50 ring gauges. So I just want a big ring gauge because it's him.
I have a suggestion for you. It's not a particularly great cigar. I have had this. I actually bought it in Covent Garden in London in a beautiful little cigar shop. And it's got a bit of a misnomer. It's called a Texas Lancero. Okay. It's not Lancero sized. It's 7 inches, 70 ring gauge. It's a big cigar. It's a 5-hour smoke cigar. And if you took the band off and you just held it there, you would go head to head with Orson Welles. You could even chew on the butt at the end. That chewiness. Sort of 1930s, 40s, just holding a cigar and just chewing on it and extracting the tobacco from it, that kind of thing.
Okay, that's so. The CAO Brazilian Amazon is probably the craziest I would go. That would to me would just be so big it would be obnoxious.
Pairing.
Okay. I think with Orson I would get like a Macallan 25.
Any particular reason?
Because every time I've ever heard him speak, it's the elegance and the way he speaks and presents himself. Where like Churchill, I think you'd give him anything, he'd drink it. Like he was really a champagne drinker more than I think a scotch drinker, but I got to have scotch. And with Orson, I think I'd want to do a Macallan 25 with him. I think that would just be perfect.
By the way, it is Ramadan, but even if it wasn't Ramadan, the favorite pairing, I would be drinking Coca-Cola throughout. I find Coca-Cola.
Oh, wow.
The sugar hit with a cigar, any cigar, just brings out all the flavors and notes.
Yep.
So,
you know what I do? Because I'm not a big Coca-Cola fan. I'm a big Coke fan. No, I'm just kidding. What I do is I drink cran grape because it has sugar. And what I found over the years is like in the morning, like when Ramadan is over and we have cigars in the morning when we're talking, you and I, I'll have my scotch, I'll have my cigar, but before I smoke, I will drink a half a glass of cran grape or cranberry juice because the sugar will make sure that, because I'm not going to be having a steak at 6 o'clock in the morning, and make sure I don't get sick. And that's what I do. So,
and also because it cleanses the palate a little bit.
Palate, right. So I can enjoy my cigar, and people look at me like I'm nuts. Like when we were in Dubai with these guys, this one guy, as I told you, I think yesterday before we were taping anything, so we'll discuss it here a little bit. He had the Padron 1926 50th anniversary cigar, which is a very nice cigar, but it's a really full body cigar. And he said to me, I want that cigar, because he wanted to have something special and he's never smoked a cigar. I was like, dude, you sure you don't want to start off with like a Romeo and Juliet? It's like smoking a
Right.
newspaper and you're good. He goes, no, no, no. I said, fine. So I said, we're going to go to dinner first. And we're going to have a big steak dinner, and we're going to drink scotch at dinner, and we're going to fill our bellies with steak and bread and have a dessert. And we're going to be so full that they're going to roll us back here. And I said, then you smoke this cigar. He goes, well, why can't we smoke it before dinner? I said, because you won't make it to dinner. And he's like, I go, you will turn green, or you'll get so high from the tobacco that, and the Technicolor yawn for you will become an Olympic sport. I said, if you fill your belly up, that's good. I said, that, or we're going to have to go get you like 5 gallons of sugar for you to eat, because the sugar will offset the tobacco.
That's right. That's the for new cigar smokers. Always carry chocolate. Yeah. Always carry borrowed chocolate. Start munching on it before you get sick. Start munching on it, because
like when you start. Yeah, like it doesn't do you any good when you go, I feel a little queasy. I'm like, you're done. And what's really dumb is when they start feeling queasy, they keep smoking. I'm like, what are you thinking? So with new cigar smokers, I'm always like, have sugar, whether it's literally a teaspoon of sugar, it's soda, juice, something with sugar. I said, but the best thing is put something in your stomach, eat. And they look at me like I have 3 heads, and then all of a sudden they're like, ooh, I'm like,
well, it'll make sense later on.
Yeah, it makes sense when you're not throwing up. So, but yeah, so it's very interesting when newbies smoke a cigar. They're not quite sure even how to light them, like how you light the foot, how you cut the top. So it's like when you teach them, if they're in awe, like they all want to cut it. And like some of the guys I know like a V cut, some like the straight. So I said, the new guys was like, here, let's just cut it. I'll cut it for you. So we cut a very nice, small little top off the head. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, oh, this is great. I'm like, how are you going to do it? He's like, I'm going to go. I'm like, no. You have to enjoy. And then we have to explain to them that you're not showing off by leaving the band on. You're holding the cigar together until it's close enough where the band should just almost fall off on its own, or you can just slide it off. And people are like, oh, you're showing. I'm like, no one's showing off, because if a new cigar, you pull it off, as you know, right? You pull the band and the leaf starts going, and you're like, oh, this is good. So you have to explain to everybody. There's like, I'm not showing off. I'm just like, we have to. It's an etiquette to smoking a cigar, and I think that's why the guests that I've picked, and even Arnold, I think would be very cool. I like the old world of it. Like the Churchill Club.
Yes, there is a theme. There is an old world theme going on.
Yeah, I like that.
Second guest?
Your second guest. Mine was Orson Welles. Yours is?
Now I'm going for a fictional character.
Okay.
Lieutenant Frank Columbo.
Oh yeah, Peter. Peter Falk. Are you kidding? Yes.
No, but I don't want Peter Falk.
You want Columbo?
Columbo with a cheap cigar. You know those very, very greeny cigars that he used to smoke.
Yep.
Sort of like not brown, green, very, very fresh.
Yep. With a trench coat.
Sorry.
With his trench coat, with his crumpled. He has to come in the crumpled. Right.
The full paraphernalia. I want Lieutenant Columbo at that dinner table, because I can't imagine having a normal conversation with him. It will be, I am the bloody murderer, and he will be prying it out of me one way.
Right. Even if you didn't do it.
And the distraction topic will be the cigar, because I think he'll work out from what cigar I'm smoking, whether I've done it or not, where the ash is falling, whether I've done it or not. And for me, I have a very golden feeling for 70s and 80s TV, even 60s TV. Movies, I can go back to the 1930s, but for TV, it's sort of a late 60s, 70s, The $6 Million Man, Columbo, The Rockford Files.
Remember Banachek?
I do remember the name, but I never watched that. I was... I was born in 1972, so everything I watched was either on a rerun in the mid 70s or was sort of like late 70s. Programs like Taxi and comedies and things like that. But Columbo is I think about a year ago I saw the whole of Columbo from start to finish, every single episode.
Right.
And the first episode was directed by whom?
I don't know.
Steven Spielberg.
Okay. I was just guessing. Wow, look at that. Nice.
Wow. And the first 2 series of Columbo had the most beautiful cars. All the villains drove Rolls Royces, Ferraris, Mercedes Benzes. And a year ago, I was watching, of course, I saw Columbo 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But a year ago, when I sat down, I had such a warm, mellow feeling of a world that was such a nice place, a better place, a buttery place. Even a villain was a villain, like a proper villain. They may have tried to hide in plain sight, but they were always rich. They always drove a Ferrari, and they always knew how to get rid of a body until Columbo turned up. And
that's true.
And on top of that, because Columbo smokes a cigar, always cheap cigars. Oh, and by the way, that reminds me, there is an episode of Columbo where the murderer, Roddy McDowell,
I remember that,
driving a Ferrari Daytona in that episode, commits a murder with a cigar box, an exploding cigar box.
Nice.
Which he presents to his very rich uncle. His uncle takes it off to a ski lodge, and he's golden fit. So there's a big cigar connection. There's that. For me, that's old world. It's not particularly very, very old, but that goes back to my childhood and being, 10 years old and watching Columbo come up. And just one more thing, and that's the Columbo line. He'll go out and come back.
Yeah, I remember. He'd be like, just one more thing, man, and I'd be like, oh, here we go. And then he'd always talk about his wife that nobody ever got to see.
Nobody.
He'd be like. The missus and I were thinking, and I'm like, I love this guy. He was the best.
But the reason why Columbo, apart from all of those things, he came up in my brain as a dinner guest is because I've actually seen him as a dinner guest. I saw him do the Friars Roast for Frank Sinatra on YouTube.
Wow. Okay.
In persona as Columbo. And I thought, wow, imagine if he turned up to dinner. It would just be a laugh. He upstaged Don Rickles. You know what it's like to upstage Don Rickles.
Right.
So for me, you can see I've got a smile on my face. Columbo, Columbo would just hold.
He's still alive. Peter Falk is still alive. If Peter Falk sees this, Peter should come on as Columbo and have a cigar with us while we do the show. That would be awesome.
That'd be cool. But the honor would be to have Lieutenant Columbo come on the show.
Well, no, I'm just saying, come on as Columbo with the trench coat or the bath or something. And it just, Now, with all your guests, are you drinking Coca-Cola?
I have to drink Coca-Cola for all the obvious reasons because I'm in Ramadan anyway. I shouldn't be drinking anything anyway, but that's one of my vices. But no, it would be a Coca-Cola evening. I would like to have my sanity with me to deal with these people. If it's a one-time experience, I want to. For me, the edge off is just marinating in this energy of these guests, especially when we round off. We have a common last guest. When we round off with this guest, we know it's a sealed deal that this is a fabulous dinner table. So did you like
this would be something that I'll have to think of fictional because I was thinking, well, who do I want? I was all nonfiction, but next week I'll come up with some fictional as well. But the Columbo, that would be awesome. But like you said, I want that rumpled coat. I want the whole disheveled hair. I want that Columbo.
The everyday man, but ultra smart, ultra cool, and ultra funny as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he was great. And then he had that Basset Hound that he would bring every now and then.
That was in the later episodes. And then and then he had the Peugeot car right at the beginning, the crappy Peugeot. Everything about him is just it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It's for me, it's a cry back to childhood and better times, better people, better world.
Old school. That's why I keep telling people, like when we went to which you've been to, the Winston Churchill Club. I said it reminds me of an old world gentleman's club, and people look at me because the gentleman's club today has the wrong connotation. I say old world gentleman's club where it's all leather couches, there's a bar, There's this humidor with full of cigars, and guys are just smoking cigars and just chilling. I said, that's what I enjoy. I like that kind of atmosphere. So when I go to a cigar lounge, and there's not that many here in Austin that are that good. They're all for show. And I want old world where whether you talk to someone or don't talk to someone, no one cares. You're just all there. So that's kind of hard to find now. Everyone's like, oh, look at this. But I don't care. I'm there just to chill. So that's mostly I cigars by myself because it's just easier to relax.
Of comfort. It's a place of emotional comfort.
Yeah.
Back to your childhood, back to things that actually felt right. The world made sense. Not this wokey world.
That's true. Let me ask you this before we go on to the last guest, because it's our same guest. Here's how I got started on Scotch and cigars, and you can tell me how you got started. When I graduated university, my grandfather said, "You're finally a man." Even though at 13, by Jewish law, you're a man, but to him, it's like you got your degree now. You're a man. So he takes me out for a steak dinner, which I did on Wall Street, so it worked out well. He takes me out for a Scotch, which is a Macallan, and a cigar. And back then, remember, you could smoke a cigar at a restaurant after dinner. So, we're going way, way back, right? So I had my Scotch and cigar, and I was hooked because there was something elegant about having a Scotch and cigar. And then I went to London for business. And I remember the guy said, "Would you like dessert?" He brings a dessert tray and a box of Cubans. And I was like, oh, so of course I'm like, and I said to him, "Can we smoke cigars in the restaurant?" Because, I'm in London, I don't know. And he's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Yes, we will." And it was sort of like that. And I truly missed that at a steakhouse where after dinner, you cannot have a cigar because everyone's offended that's ridiculous bull. You go out and you bleed the pollution, but you're worried about my pure tobacco leaf. You know what I mean? So that's my first foray with a Scotch and cigar. So I've been smoking Scotch and cigar or having Scotch and cigars now for like 40 years. And I wouldn't, whatchamacallit. Oh, we lost our guest. There he is. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. But something I said apparently. But yeah, so that's my memory of it. So part of I think I enjoy the nostalgia and whatever is because of that. It brings me back to like, okay, like granddad.
As cigar smokers, by the way, we have a pre-dinner cigar, and then a post-dinner cigar.
Yes.
Sort of aperitif cigar. Something that just builds you up, ready to get, gets the flavor.
That's right.
Should we go to the final guest?
We should go to the final guest. But wait, who or what got you involved with cigars?
Simple. My story is 95% of cigar smokers' stories. I used to steal cigars from my father's cabinet when I was about 13, 14, 15. I can't remember now. That part of my life is slightly vague. But they were Monte Cristos. I have no recall what model of Monte Cristos they were, but I used to steal Monte Cristo cigars, sometimes Romeo and Julietas. And those two brands, for that reason, have stuck in my brain. Monte Cristo band is a very, very plain band. I may even have one lying around somewhere. It's a very, very plain cigar band.
Yep.
But
I have some Monte Cristos behind me in the humidor.
Because it's very oldie worldy, and because it evokes the Count of Monte Cristo, after whom it's named. I have this love affair with oldie worldy cigars. Sort of that slight staleness, that leatheriness, that woodiness you get from like an old office that you walk, or sort of very old office that you walk into. But no, my father was a cigar smoker. He worked in the city. He was a banker. And I guess that went with the banking community in the late 70s and early 80s. Cigar smoking, cheese board after dinner, very British, all that kind of thing. Savile Row suit, all that. Everything goes with that. But the part that I retained is the cigar smoking. So even, I think when I started smoking as an adult in earnest, maybe about 15, 16 years ago, I really started smoking. It was really to evoke a memory of my father. He died 25 years ago. But in some way, you become your father. And that is a very ready, easy departure. You light a cigar and you're much older than you think you are. You're evoking ghosts of the past. I think it's an intoxication that evokes the ghosts and spirits of good conversation and all those spirits come and sit with you. I mean, I'm talking to you right now, but the ghost of my father is sitting and listening and partaking and wondering what a complete idiot this one turned out to be.
I'm sure my grandfather's doing the same thing. He's going, great. My grandson has a doctorate, and this is what he does. So, you know, I'm like, yeah, this is what I do. Just, why not?
No, for us, certainly for me, I think you're perhaps one of the same. We're in it for the, you know, we're reminiscing, we're evoking times gone by. We are marinating in a moment of classiness. Can I say classiness, where the conversation is a little classier? It's not necessarily about mundane things. It's a time to pause and talk about fashion, literature, history, arts, technology. It's a wonderful thing. It's really, I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful activity. So I got into it because of my father. I've stayed in it because of my father, but I've also now kind of made it my own. It's my moment of contemplation.
Very nice.
And it pairs with good company more than anything. It pairs with people such as yourself. It pairs with good company.
And one day we're going to do this show in the same room.
Live, that's right. And I'm really looking forward to that. That would be
and
cool.
David will have something else to complain about. The people that don't know that we have Sermon from the German is on right now, and David's complaining about the fact he didn't get a book from Shiraz, the brown car guy. So he'll have something to complain about, that you and I were in the same room smoking cigars, and why he wasn't invited. So
I hope that room will be in London. I hope that our first cigar in person will be in London, and will be some fine Cuban cigars. I think that will be a great start to this. And then
my next trip is to Dubai is in at the end of April, beginning of May. And so I told my guy, I said, listen, I need a day or two in London for a whole bunch of reasons. So he's trying to figure out, he's like, I only figure out how I make this work for you. Because he knows I hate layovers, let alone getting out of the airport to come back. But I'm like, no, 2 days in London, I should be good. I get everything I need to get done. So we're taking a look at how that might work. So I will that'll be an interesting day if I show up. So I will let you know. So, well, Virgin will get us there again. So,
God willing. So, shall we segue into the common final? Not so common, but should we say his name together? 3, 2, 1. Groucho Marx.
Groucho Marx. Yes, there you go. The great Groucho Marx. That I don't even know what to smoke with him. I would just be in awe.
Incidentally.
But I would be in awe because like we spoke about, I read his brother's book, Harpo Speaks.
That's right.
I've read some of the biographies about him, and I'm just like, I would just be like, just tell me anything, just talk to me. You know, like I just want to hear.
They say about, well, Tony Bennett is gone. They said Tony Bennett's voice is so good he can sing the phone directory. I think Groucho Marx's quips are so good he can quip through a phone directory. All he has to do is save it, and they will lead to one thing or another thing, or a quip or a remark or a joke or an undercut. What a classy character. Possibly next to Noam Chomsky, one of the smartest people of all time, in my opinion, in my personal opinion. Because to be that bloody funny, you have to be that ridiculously smart.
And we spoke about it though, but it's very Yiddish humor. They were born in New York, if I'm not mistaken. And so if you come from where's Kepler, right? You have to have a smart Kepler, a smart brain. And it's just the Yiddish humor, and he just took the Yiddish humor and made it into their own. And they were on vaudeville for years. Like I didn't realize how long they were on vaudeville until I read Harpo's book. And it talks about how they were on vaudeville and how they did this and how this happened and how they finally got their movies. And it was like, wow. So for them, it was sort of like you had to be like on and on and on and on. And the cigar and the wax mustache, that's in the beginning was a fake mustache, was his shtick, as they say. And then all of a sudden it was sort of like it wasn't his shtick anymore, it was him. You know? And so he became Groucho Marx, which is interesting, right?
I've seen him on programs like What's My Line, the old black and white because on YouTube you can see anything now, and people like me who are sort of like stuck in the past, we can just switch off, light a cigar, and I'm watching my black and white movies and old reruns. But my God, he demolishes everyone without. It's effortless. He can do it effortlessly. Yes. And the one thing I do like about that old humor, especially with people like Groucho Marx, is they're not ad hominem. It's not there to put you down. It's there to spice the moment up. Nothing more. Right. It's a spicy.
But you know what's interesting? If you do that humor today, people, and we've discussed this as well, our shows are not woke. Our shows are very direct and to the point. But everybody like, that's offensive. No, it's not. It's called humor. And that humor today, if Groucho Marx was alive today, he couldn't be Groucho Marx because people are like, well, that was offensive. You can't say that. Yes, I can. And it's like, if you don't like it, yeah, right? It's like, yeah, I can say it. Like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. So when these people go, you've offended me, I'm like, good, then turn it off. I don't care if I offend you because the other 9,000 people aren't offended.
But honestly, no, you do say that, but Groucho Marx, it was either very rarely or never. He never made insulting jokes. I don't recall it as being insulting.
He insinuated sometimes. He would insinuate.
Your mind did your own tricks for you.
Right. If you watch Animal Crackers, they're off to the races. The things he says about the women and some of the gentlemen, they were insulting. But the way he does it, it's sort of like, like when he says, I wouldn't belong to a club that would have a member like me, but then he literally just tears them all apart. So what he would do is the self-deprecating, but then he'd be like, I'm going to do one against me and 10,000 against you. And by the time you realize it, boom. It's like with I forget the one girl that he used. Yeah, so I like his humor, and I think the world is a lesser place because we don't have people like that anymore. Because everybody gets offended at everything, and I'm like, how can you be offended when someone's just kidding with you? And I tell people, if I kid with you, however we do it, I like you. If I don't kid with you, you have a problem.
It's play.
It's like whether it's business or personal. Yeah, it's verbal. It's verbal masturbation, which is nice. You got to be able to do that with your friends. Yeah. And if you can't, it's not a good. Yeah, well, think about it, right? I mean, like, when you go into a business meeting, 90% of that is mental masturbation. You're like, okay, we're just sitting here. Like, we could have been done an hour ago. When you're with your mates and you're at a cigar club or you're out and you're verbally jousting, it's really just verbal masturbation, right? You're just going back and forth and throwing quips at each other for fun, right? It's the pleasure of, I can joke with my guys. They can joke back with me, and it's fun. And that's really, if you think about it, that's all it is. And people get offended by things, and I'm like, why? I was born and raised in New York. I don't get offended by anything. Like, I don't understand the woke. I don't understand the generation. I understand none of it because I'm just like, grow a pair of balls. Like, people are offended with cigar smoke. People are offended with this. I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's not my problem. Like, if you don't like it,
it's very precious. Everyone is very
precious.
I
got your pressure. As Don Rickles will say, I got your pressure right here. So, but yeah, no. So to me, it's a very different mentality, if you will. And I like it. And I think that's why I like cigars, because not that I want to stand out or not that I want to be different. It's just, that's my thing. And I told people this, and my doctor I know hates when I say this, but I had my physical on my birthday last month to see if I was going to live. And unfortunately for people, I'm going to. But he said, for the 20 and 30-year-olds that he has, I'm healthier than them. And he knows I smoke 50 cigars a week. I drink my scotch. So they check my lungs. They check everything. And he goes, you have nothing wrong with your lungs, nothing wrong with this. He's like, you're the healthiest person in our office. And we see everything from like a newborn to a 100-year-old. He says, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm like, I know. Like, I'm good. And then he says, and the joke is, there's 20-year-olds that come in with a list of medication that they're on for whatever. And so the nurse every year, when she sees me, she goes, what medication are you on? I look at her, I go, seriously? And she goes, okay, none. I'm like, yeah, scotch and cigars. That's my medication. And she's like, and the doctor says, he literally says, I'm going to start telling people you have to start drinking and doing that. So, but it's up here. And if scotch and cigars makes you feel good, then do it. What are you going to do? Be on your deathbed and go, I wish I would have? That's ridiculous.
Life is short. You have to balance and get through it, you know. But your guests, your three guests are contemporaries. Winston Churchill, Orson Welles,
right?
Groucho Marx. They're all contemporaries.
Well, that's a mutual.
Right. All cigar smokers and all drinkers.
Yeah.
So there's your commonality. Mine is movies. Mine is the movies. Mine is obsessed with movies. So anything fictional, non-fictional, those are the characters. But I'll say this one more time. I'm very envious of your Orson Welles choice. That is,
thank you.
That one's good. Any honorable mentions? Any honorable mentions? One person that's not in there that could have been in there.
Yes, Danny DeVito. Because we brought Dan. I think Danny DeVito would be a good honorable mention.
My honorable mention is a non-cigar smoker.
Yeah.
Noam
Okay.
The most intellectual person sitting at the table who just calm down. This is the way. There's the stats. This is how it's the anchor of the table. Well, no, you shouldn't really get offended by that. You should, that delivery, the Noam Chomsky delivery. When I get pissed off, I think of this man. Just bring it down, slightly down.
That's awesome. Well, the good thing is next week we have to come up with 3 more dinner guests. And Ramadan is still next week, correct?
It is for the next 2.5-ish weeks. Yes.
So the 3rd, not next week, but the week after, we will both have Scotch and Cigars on that show. And I'm doing it only out of respect. The minute we get off air, I'm having a Scotch and Cigar. But I'm just saying right now, out of respect, I don't want anybody to be like, that was disrespectful. And because we do a lot of business in the UAE, I'm very big on as we talk about on the respect side. So I would never want to offend anybody who I know there or we do business with by like, how could you do that? He could. So I'll wait till after the show.
Here's an interesting proposition in my head. You might not find it interesting. Next week, why don't we do the thing we didn't do this week? Let's have 3 female dinner guests.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. I've already got 2 already in my mind.
I haven't got any, but I just realized there's an absence of ladies at the table. And let's go for 3 of our favorite female dinner guests.
Okay. I got 3. Mine are going to be, I think, all historical. But they're going to be, some of them are going to go back to like 10,000 BCE up until yesterday. So it's going to be, I think mine will be somewhat interesting.
Fictional is allowed. I
threw it could be fiction, nonfiction, whatever you want.
I
think that's the best way.
I'm always going to throw one non-fictional in. Sorry, one fictional in. I'm always going to throw one
fictional. Right.
There's always going to be one fictional. But I'm actually, that for me, that's already exciting. Who am I going to have as my dinner guest next week? So,
and at some point, we will have a guest on our show that they'll have to do this. Maybe Arnold will show up, or Danny, or Frank Columbo. You never know. Mine are all dead. So if they show up, that's himself impressive. Yours are at least alive. So,
turn up and just steal the whole bloody show. That's what would happen.
We just sit here for the hour and go, no, please stop. We don't care. So don't let us interrupt you at all. Just you do your thing. We'll just sit here and smoke cigars. We're good. So, well, for everybody watching, thank you very much. If you're listening on the podcast where you can hear us on, as we say, Google, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts, I think we're everywhere. You can go to our playlist and you can see Cigar Noir, and you can also follow the link to all the Cigar Noirs that he puts out, which is also very cool. You can catch us every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock New York time. So that's EST for you people elsewhere on the planet, and that's when the podcast will come out. If you have dinner guests that you want us to talk about, put them in the comments, and we'll take a look through that. If you have a favorite cigar or scotch you want us to talk about or look at or explore or try, let us know what it is, and we'll go from there. And other than that, kids, we'll see everybody next week. Cheers.